You don't have to like who I am. I don't have to look perfect for you. But guess what? It also, when you walk in your authenticity, you'll see the spirits that are, kind of put off by it. You'll see it.
Yeah.
They'll be smiling in your face, and and they're so uncomfortable. They start talking fast, they're moving around fast. They can't do it because they can't be their authentic selves. And when you start to do it, you'll see the people around you, and it's going to change. It may shift, but you're going to see the people who really align with that. All those dreams that you had that were masked, that put down because you've been on fight or flight all these years, look and see what those dreams are and go forth.
Welcome back to the Life Over 40 with Jessie, the space where we talk about purpose, resilience, and living fully in this season of life. So let's be real. Life after 40 often brings challenges we didn't see coming. From career shifts to health scares to family transitions, it can feel like life is testing every part of us. And many women wonder, how do I stay strong without losing myself in the process? That's why I'm excited about today's conversation. I'm joined by Malaysia Harrell, an inspiring woman of faith who knows firsthand what it means to walk through hard seasons and come out stronger. Today, I'm promising you that you'll be able to discover how faith, resilience, and mental health work together to help women over 40 not just survive life's challenges, but thrive. Malaysia Harrell shares her powerful story with practical wisdom so you'll walk away feeling encouraged, grounded, and equipped with tools to strengthen your spirit. Protect your peace and embrace this season of life with confidence. Thank you so very much for being a guest today.
Thank you, Jessie, for just having me on your show and inviting me to your platform. I love what you are doing in the space for women over 40. We need it so much. And so thank you again.
It's my absolute pleasure. I was super happy to see the request and because I've known some parts of your story just through interactions because we've known each other for some years, but then we haven't spoken for some time as well. And I
Yeah.
really would love to hear a little bit more about your personal story and journey. Can you share a season where your life felt tested and your resilience had to push through?
Absolutely. So yes, we have known each other, and I was so excited to be able to see you. I'm like, you're doing so, so well. And I always have loved, you being in an entrepreneur space. And so that just kind of shifted to where I am now. So I was active duty, serving on active duty for over 20 years. But in 2020, things changed for me. And I was one of these people, like yourself, just, in the community doing leadership. And what I realized is, when I had the experience in 2020, I want to just take it back a minute because I grew up in poverty. I grew up like many people with a lot of childhood trauma, all
Mm.
different traumas. And so I had built myself of a person that used success, what society deems as success, to show my validation in my worth, right? That was my
Yeah.
form of love. And so I did all the things. I was very successful in my career, worked for the Surgeon General of the United States. I was the director of addictions medicine for the Department of Defense. So I worked very closely with the Office of National Drug Control Policy with the White House. I can spiel off all my awards. I looked highly decorated, almost like Colin Powell, got married, had the house, the cars, everything that society deems that we should have, especially as women over 40.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I had a near-death experience after deployment. It was the height of COVID. And, it really forced me to really take a look at who I really was because I had sepsis,
Mm.
almost died. I had all these other life-threatening conditions. I've had 9 surgeries in the past 5 years. I was 254 pounds. I had Bell's palsy where my face, drooped down on one side. And I can tell you, Jessie, that my faith was tested. So when you talk about where there was a time, there was a shift, So I really had to look to God, to my higher
Yeah.
power to really say, what is your plan for my life? Because I was doing what I thought I was doing. I was serving. I was
Yeah.
serving after 9/11, serving my country, serving the community. But it's then is when it shifted to say, okay, now I have to surrender. And what is it that you would have me do? And when I did that, my life completely changed. I do not look like what I've been through. It was a
Yeah.
very short period of time, and the opportunities, I wouldn't even be talking with you here today if that
Yeah.
didn't happen.
And you shared a lot just in that little part, and I kind of want to even touch on upbringing.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we are at 40, when we're doing, let's say, the work on ourselves, we can often find that it's linked to how we've been showing up in the world, can sometimes be linked to our life experiences when we're younger. And you touched a little bit on about how success was linked to some of how you experienced life younger. Was
Mhm.
that something that it took what happened in 2020 for you to recognize? Or when did you really start to realize, like, maybe I'm pushing myself because I'm seeking a validation
Mhm.
of what was missing maybe in your youth or in your past?
Well, that's an excellent question because I became a mental health provider. And a lot
Mm,
of people who come from trauma become
mm,
helpers. They go in the
yeah.
helping professions. We think, well, maybe I can understand what happened to me if I just become a clinician and I can understand mental illness and
Mm,
addictions and all of these things. So I
yeah.
know a lot of people can relate on that front. But it's funny that you asked that question because you said, did it happen in 2020 when you had your near death experience? Or did it happen before that? And I will tell
Yeah.
you this. So I got promoted in 2019. So I became captain, and other services is considered a colonel. Right.
Yeah.
And what happened was I started to question some things
Mm,
because the day that I learned that I got promoted, again, Jesse, this is the pinnacle. This is right. Most people don't make that rank. And I even
yeah.
wanted to become admiral. Most people will never make that rank.
Yeah.
Yet serve 20 years in service, right?
Yeah.
And so when I found out I got promoted, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I need to call my nana." My nana was no longer with us because
Mm,
she was the person that he was the one when I was working for the Surgeon General, hearing her voice, hearing her laugh, she was so excited for me. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And so when that happened, I said, my goodness, my Nana's not here. And it was almost like this melancholy feeling of what's next.
Mm,
I couldn't even bask in the success. I was married at the time. I had gotten married in 2016. My
yeah.
husband met her right before she passed, and she really kind of signed off on him because I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have been
You
married. I
hadn't
was
done it?
so tough, right? And I started questioning then, and I said, "Wait a minute." And I almost think I was asking God then what was my plan. You know what I mean? It kind of
Mhm.
started. And one thing I will say is when you ask the question, be careful
Yeah.
what you ask for because you will get answers and you will get, it may not, things may not look the way you think they're going to be. And so
Yes.
if I asked the question, it would have only taken something like that to happen to me in order to sit me down to even
Mhm.
understand what the plan is.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's when it really started, I think, is when I got promoted and it was like, well, what's next? Then I'm like, oh, I want to be senator. You know what I mean? Oh, I want to
Mm.
make admiral. It
Yeah.
wasn't, hey, you made it to even this. Most
Yeah.
people who've been through what you've been through in your life has not done that.
Yeah.
What are the differences that
Yeah.
shape people who've been what society deems successful, but you're
Yeah.
actually struggling on the inside because you're
Yeah.
masking
Yeah.
everything with what you think success is, but you're
Yeah.
completely empty on the inside.
And what I hear is like it's the validation. It's the continuous like, and I find that sometimes because I'm a city girl as well, and
Yes.
sometimes it's like we're constantly trying to, and we don't recognize it as such. And so,
Mhm.
like to be able to continue to be like, I did this, I did this. It's almost like we're allowing the resiliency and the validation and the self worth to kind of like become on and not
Yes,
realize, like, we're made perfect in
that's
God's image.
right.
And
Yes.
we don't need to keep proving ourselves to anyone else. But like
No.
when we come from certain backgrounds, there's this innate like thing that's inside that you're like, I'm trying to be successful. I'm not going. And then I would say, even for myself, it's kind of like thinking, I know that I'm one of the few people in my neighborhood that actually graduated high school and college, you know? And
Wow.
so it's always in the head, like, I'm trying to do something better.
Right.
You know, so, like,
Right.
I'm glad that you shared that because when you said that, I was like, I feel that this is something I would highly encourage women, especially at our age bracket. Don't I feel like there can be a negative connotation around mental health, and I would love to get your opinion about this because I feel that, especially in our community, there can be this negative connotation, like something's broken or something's wrong, and it doesn't that's not true, actually, and I feel like there can be so much freedom to self-discovery, and have you found that even though you're a mental health expert, because like even I read Brene Brown and she shares like, yeah, I was doing all this research on shame and things like that, but when I had to look at myself and my patterns with
Mhm.
shame, like it was actually felt like a conflict with you helping other people and doing what you were
Mhm.
doing when it came to you. Did you find that there were some blind spots or were you welcoming to this exploration?
So before everything happened, no, I was
Mm,
perfect. What do you mean? I'm
how dare
helping
you?
everybody else. Like I'm here to, I went through this because I'm the helper. I'm the
Mhm.
expert.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was, I don't know if I even identify with a level of like my humanistic side.
Mhm.
You're on fight or flight, right? You either
Yeah.
sink or swim, and you're in this vortex of, being on that wheel, right?
Yeah.
I'm moving. I don't have time to sit down and think about my past or what
Yeah.
happened to me. And guess what? It was all boxed up so nicely in the
Mhm.
closet, right? Arranged
Yeah.
nicely, and so it wasn't until that closet opened and
Yeah.
everything fell out. So all the trauma, again, I ignored that, right?
Yeah.
That didn't bother me. At least I didn't think so,
Yeah.
right? Until all of these things happen and you start to have this shift and you start to analyze and reflect. You have a
Mm.
deep period of reflection. I call it like, when you talk about the dark night of the soul,
Mm.
when you're no longer who you were, right?
Yeah.
And you're deep down and you're doing this deep mirror work, soul searching, and you're not quite who you are, you're almost in this holding pattern. But at that
Mhm.
time, you're thinking about your whole life and you're
Yeah.
thinking about, well, wow, I maybe I struggled a little bit more than I needed to.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't recognize those blind spots and I didn't even think I had blind spots. You had blind spots. I didn't have no blind spots.
How dare you say that? You know, like, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
It's almost this
audacity.
level of I have to be up here. I can't even look back because I
Mhm.
know if I go back and I look back, I'm going to go to a dark place that I don't want to go to. And
Mhm.
so it's been a big period of exploration now. And even writing my book, God Has My Six, and looking at my aligned success formula that helped me, to really create this formula to help myself heal, right?
Yeah.
Using so many different modalities. But it wasn't until then that I realized, oh, I'm human too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Our humanity and our spirituality, if we allow it, it can become both. And
Yeah.
it's not until we take the time to really accept it. And
Yeah.
I found this really cool statistic. It says, according to the Pew Research, over
Mhm.
60% of women in midlife turn to spirituality as a way for coping with life transitions. Why do you
Absolutely.
think faith plays such a powerful role in resilience, especially for women over 40?
It's so interesting that you said that, and I have like a multitude of answers, but I will sum it up. Okay, so I am in my PhD for mind body medicine now because of all of
Congratulations.
this. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I started to actually do research, right? Again, I'm a practitioner, I'm evidence-based. I want to understand things. And my dissertation is actually on using faith and overcoming from people who've experienced near death or medical
Mhm.
crisis experience. And several years ago, on top of that, I watched a movie by Dr. Wayne Dyer
Okay.
it was called The Shift.
Okay.
And basically it was saying that in the beginning of life, you have like a couple different phases, but the first part when you're young,
Mm.
everything is based on that validation level.
Yes.
And in the second phase of your life, the shift is based on what you're giving back, right? Why
Okay.
you're here, your purpose, reflection. And I watched a movie back a long time, years ago before COVID. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. And I was over 40, but I still didn't get it because I had dedicated my life of service. So I
Yes.
thought this was my purpose. I thought this is what I was already doing,
Yeah.
right? And so you have this period of reflection, and you also realize that we're not immortal,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And there's just this shift that happens to say, what am I really here for? And what do I want to leave,
Yeah.
on this earth? I believe that we were put here for a reason. A lot of times, because of our youth, we're doing things and jobs and aligning because of what people told us that we were
Very
supposed to
true.
be doing. People told us you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have children,
Yeah.
religion, right? You're raised to think certain things.
Right.
And sometimes you realize, wow, I'm struggling and I don't quite know why.
Mhm.
Haven't been able to have the relationships that I want to have. I didn't. And so people are now awakening, and I see, this new generation doing things a lot different from what we were taught.
Yeah.
Some of it may not align exactly the way I feel like it should align, but I
Mhm.
feel like questioning in the beginning and when in your youth, so that you can really, why are you doing this job? Why did you get that degree? Why are you getting
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
and not even making more money? And you're
Yes.
struggling and struggling and struggling to get more and more and more, thinking I need to do this in order to make money or in order to
Yeah.
do whatever. But it's when that shift happens that life just starts to flow. When you're
Mhm.
in your spirituality, things, you're not worried about how things are going to come because they're going to come.
Yeah.
They have always come, even when you thought they weren't. You spent half your life worrying on things that never even happened. And oh, by the way, when you thought, oh, I can't leave that job because Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food,
Mhm.
clothing, and shelter, that's at the bottom,
Yeah.
right? I can't even see about self actualization because I need to make sure you have money.
Yes.
The clients that I've worked with in my spiritual transformation coaching, one of them closed down her brick and mortar. She didn't know how she was going to get money. She
Mm.
didn't know how, she was married, but still they depended on her income, right?
Mm.
But the overhead that you have, the time that you have,
Yeah.
supervising, all the things that were taken away from you, you not being able to spend time with your children and your family. She left that job. Everything aligned for her. She started getting into new things. She's into now cybersecurity. She got a full scholarship that
Mhm.
paid her stipend, was able to
Wow.
buy a new car, right?
Yeah.
And now she's able to really spend time with her son,
Yeah.
which is the reason why she thought she wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so that is my long, short answer because it's very complex. But
Yeah.
once you align with your divine assignment, the world just changes. I thought, because I wasn't making the money I was making being active duty. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I have all this debt. I'm trying to heal myself. I went and did all these things.
Mm.
And you start to see money coming from nowhere,
Yeah.
checks coming, opportunities to speak on big platforms. Today I
Yeah.
looked in my PayPal this morning and I got $350. I don't know, it says where it's from, but I don't know where that's from. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's one of the partnerships that I have,
Yeah.
or the affiliates, cuz I had never seen. I'm telling you, literally,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny about this. When you align with your divine assignment, life starts to flow for you and the gates just open for you.
That's so true, and I'm reading this book, and I'll share it with you as well. It's called On Your Terms by Nick
Mm,
Siegel, and it's a really, really great book because I think sometimes the biggest part that gets in the way is allowing quiet to actually
Mm.
hear from God, to really get clarity on what really fuels you. And like with reading on your terms, I did, and I actually was recommended this book by a healthcare professional that I was working with in the consulting part of
Yeah.
my life. I was setting up a system. She's like,
Yeah.
Jesse, I think you would like this book. I would start it and I wouldn't finish it, not because it wasn't a good book, but it was doing the work that was in that book. And then
Yeah.
this year, like in the last couple of months, I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually not just listen to this book, I'm going to physically read it and I'm going to physically
Yeah.
take out paper and do the assignment. Because what some people don't realize is that you may be chasing something that was never intended for you. And you may be desiring something because, like, the reality for me, I don't really subscribe to the American dream. I just don't. Like I love seeing I love it for everyone else, but I am fine living on the countryside in another country,
Mm.
like having a relaxed life, doing a little garden. Like I'm not that person.
Yes.
And what happens is that if I just absorb nothing but what social media says, then I would just feel myself going and going and going. That's why it's common, not common, but it's not odd to have someone that has all of this success to still commit suicide.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what we can allow ourselves to do is keep going for things, thinking that eventually we'll feel whole, complete,
Mhm.
joy, and fulfillment. But if you're
Mhm.
not going after what God has really put on your heart or called you to do, you won't
Right.
feel any of those things. And I loved what you were sharing because it does take that time to be quiet, to be like, this is what, because he breaks it down. So you look at 8 different areas of life. Like, what does play look like? What does creativity? What does wealth? What does your health look like? All of these different areas that honestly, when you're just in survival mode or grind mode, you can just be going, going, going and realize like that's not really what I desire as wealth, or that's not how I view my health, or that's not how I view family. Like for me, I would love to, because my family's all over the world, I would love to have the amount of freedom that once a quarter I can fly and go see family wherever they are. But if I
Yes.
never get clarity on that's even something that would fill my cup, that would bring me joy, I would
Mhm.
just get so wrapped up in, "Oh, yeah, I like their post on Facebook," because I'm too busy chasing and not
Yeah.
experiencing the things that fulfill my cup.
That's so true.
Awesome. Yeah, and so, like, for you, when you're working with people, I would love to know, like, do you feel as if they're already coming to you with some form of clarity, or are they coming to you because they're looking for clarity?
They come to me because they don't know exactly where they need to be or go.
Mhm.
However, they know that something needs to change. That's the big part of it, right? So you
Mhm.
reached a part where it's like, hey, I'm doing all these things. Because one of my clients, the one I was talking about, she has a big TikTok and YouTube following and, a lot that comes with that, right?
Yeah,
So that what do they say about that, right? A lot that is given,
yeah,
a lot is expected of you,
yeah,
the more, and you talked about living on the countryside, and I just went to see Eckhart Tolle in DC. And I love him because here's the thing. The spiritual teacher, mindfulness on steroids, right? Even when I was listening to him, I was like just meditating, right? The
mhm,
whole place, the energy, I left there feeling so rejuvenated. But he was in a countryside somewhere. I don't know if he was in Canada or wherever.
yeah,
And he gets this call from Oprah. And I remember him saying when he told the story before, Oprah called him, was like, because she read The Power of Now.
yeah,
And I recommend that book to everybody 100%. Listen it to it on audio and read it both.
yeah.
I've read it a million times, especially in different seasons of my life. He said when she called, she was like, Eckhart Tolle or whatever. And he's like, yes. And she's like, this is Oprah Winfrey. And he goes, can you spell that? He didn't know who she was. Like and he is, I'm sure he's a trillionaire now. He's traveling the world.
Yeah,
He doesn't do that social media. Everybody's doing everything for him. He has programs rolling out. He has retreats. I'm sure he just shows up because that's not him.
yeah,
So when you start to do things that are in your complete lane, right? When you do things that are in your lane, they are in alignment with you. So my clients, they come to me and I do an assessment, right? And I determine, and we all have spiritual gifts. The Bible even talks about it.
Mhm.
And so mine is I'm able to help people really get clarity. So I have the gift of feeling. I can
Mm.
work with someone and I can tell if somebody is, especially on the mental health side, if we're not even addressing the issue you came here for. That happens a lot, I'll tell you. People
Yeah.
will go because they're like, oh, I'm doing it, I'm showing up. And we're not addressing the real issue that needs to be addressed. You want to do
Yeah.
the cute stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we can't. So I'm able to really get in spiritually and connect to help you, just to guide you, because all the answers are inside of you. God has given you these gifts, but I'm really a guide to help you get clarity on what
Mhm.
that is, what you should be doing, and help you to, really to transform and to become what you're all made to be. I have
Yeah.
one client, she was a graphic design she had a graphic design company, and now she's starting a talk show. We're going to
Mm.
pitch it. And so
Yeah.
I just love working with people who like to think outside of the box, not
Yeah.
what society deems that you. Now, we could do the partnerships, we could do some of those things, but I have clients who are saying, I'm going to create my own lane. And that's what really excites me because they believe in the unseen. For the
Mm.
people around them, for them to say that, they're going to think, this person has lost midlife crises. You lost your mind, right?
Yeah.
Most of them are over 40.
Yeah.
Some are approaching 40. Some are retired. I have another client. She's writing a book, right? And
Mm.
she's probably going to do some coaching. And so I love people that are just able to say, you know what? I'm going to surrender and I'm going to go on this journey and see where God takes me.
And I love when you said, like, people wanna do the cutesy stuff. I think
Yeah.
that that's so spot on. One of my cousins had me laughing like, a couple months ago because we are talking. I lost my mom in 2018, she lost her mom, like, I think, like, 2 years ago. Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
going into the 2nd year, and we're talking, and she's like, "How did you just, like it feels like you just you were just able to, like, keep moving." I was like, I worked with grief counselors." And she was like I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
I'm like, I think people, it doesn't have to be grief, but if it can be different things that we're facing,
Right.
and sometimes people assume that there's, like, this easy button and it's really
Yeah.
allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, go through it, find resolution, and
Right.
really have breakthroughs. And one of the things I really wanted to ask, because I feel like this is something that's definitely very common inside of the Christian or the spiritual space, because sometimes women of faith feel the pressure to just like, oh, I'll just pray it away. But when we're having mental health struggles, it can feel very real and we're having different challenges mentally. It is real. How can women honor both their faith and their mental health at the same time when it really matters?
That is such a good question because your question is really complex. It's loaded, right? So you have clients who you have religion. Religion
Mm.
is not spirituality at all. You have spirituality, religion, and then you have, when you asked about your mental health, then you have your mental health. You have your health.
Yeah,
Mental health is not different from your health. So just
yeah,
like they're checking up on your blood sugar, your
yeah.
cholesterol levels,
Hmm.
okay? That's all connected in your mind, body, and spirit. So let's get into it. Let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
Religion. Religion has a spiritual component if you allow it. But
Hmm.
religion is really the rituals, right? It's a
Yes,
book
true.
that you use. It's the rituals. It's the recipe
Yeah,
that can lead you to spirituality. But
yeah.
there's been times when I've left church and you've had this spiritual experience, you've felt the Holy Spirit, and then you get out and people don't want to let you out the parking lot. What you mean? That's not in alignment.
Yeah,
It's not in alignment. You can get cut at the church.
yeah,
Okay.
true.
Okay. And a lot of clients that I've actually been working with, especially coaching clients who are coaches, who are leading others, there's this big thing right now with church hurt,
Hmm.
church pain, church trauma, right? People have been in cults. People have been assaulted in many different ways. People have been in power control dynamics.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you what. That is, I would say that's more of the university. And you can
Mhm.
experience all, you can be hurt in the university, you could be, all the same things. That is part of it. Spirituality is your relationship with God. You
Mm.
don't need religion to do that.
Yeah.
Right now, but it does. It gives you a following. It gives you a community. It gives you
Mm.
more of the standard operating procedures,
Yeah.
okay, to be able to have a relationship with God. But they're not synonymous at all
And then a lot
because
of people
I
don't
was
know that.
religious for a while and did not
Yeah.
feel like I had that true connection until I
Yeah.
had that near death experience.
And
Okay. And then mental health is your health, right?
mm,
So we
yeah.
have imbalances. And when you talk about women over 40, things change. Your hormones change, your body changes, the way you experience the world changes. You've experienced a lot of loss, right?
Mhm.
And then you start to reflect. So all these things are coming up for you. So just like you would take your car into repair, you need a specialist to come into your house. You need to go for a evaluation every year for your body. That
Yeah.
is the same thing because your mental health comes from a lot of different aspects. It could also come from the way your body is operating too.
Mhm.
And on top of that, your experiences in the world. But I would take it one step further, Jesse, and say that before I got into the mind body medicine space, thought talk therapy because of the experts and the research and the evidence-based information. I thought, okay, this is the way to go. If you do not tie in the spirituality with mental health, you're just on that cycle. You're on that
Yeah.
hamster wheel. So you see people who lose 100 pounds and gain back 120. Why? Their spirit believes on the subconscious level, believes that they should be that way for whatever reason. Maybe there's traumas. Maybe they're trying to protect themselves, right, from
Mhm.
being violated and stuff that has happened to them. So if you don't combine those two, you're gonna be okay for a while, but you're gonna need somebody else. And again, there's good thing. Your car needs a tune up. It's all
Yeah.
always good. But if you keep finding yourself in the same relationship, I got a different significant other, but I'm in the same situation. I
Yeah.
keep switching jobs, but I'm in the same situation. I keep moving states or countries, but I'm in the same situation. You need to
Yeah.
look at that thing on a spiritual level as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I think that this day and age, people definitely allow for spirituality and religion to correlate. And one of the things I was talking to someone at my Bible study about is that often people get so wrapped up only in the first part, which is accepting Jesus. And then
Yeah.
the sanctification, the relationship, all that kind of stuff, it's if I choose to, but then not realizing that that is a part of the process. And as
Mhm.
you continue to grow in your relationship with God, that it allows for you to navigate through those things a lot better and
Yes.
navigate in your day to day a lot better. So the longer you prolong, in my opinion, your relationship with God and growing in that, it almost, in my opinion, it's like the whole mental health thing is going to just keep growing because if you
Yeah.
don't have any foundation and you're not growing the foundation spiritually, everything
Yeah.
else is going to, I mean, this day and age, everything else is going to be chaotic to you if you're
It's
not
gonna
growing
be
spiritually.
complete chaos. So there is room for prayer and
Yeah.
meditation. But
Yeah.
guess what? God has given you the resources. So
Hmm.
God is saying, okay, you got to work with me here.
Yeah.
If you listen to me, if you're present, you're mindful, you get the downloads and you move on that, you walk in faith, you pick up your bed, right, and walk. That's
Hmm.
what the Bible talks about. And so it's not a thing of, hey, I'm gonna sit here and it's gonna be a miracle. I have these medical ailments and I'm not gonna change my nutrition. I'm not gonna change what I'm putting in my mind and what I'm viewing. I'm not gonna change my relationships. I'm just gonna sit here and pray. But he's
Hmm.
give with everything. What was that one where it says that you ask, God for, a way or whatever, and then
Hmm.
the bus is there and you're not running to catch the bus.
The
Like you're just gonna sit
obedience.
here and miss it.
Yeah.
And wait a minute now. You've been given everything that's available to you in this
Hmm.
time and age. We're the sickest that we've been, but we have more resources that are available. You have AI, you have the internet, you have iPhones where
Hmm.
I'm talking to you in different states right now
Yeah.
in real time. We
Yeah.
have everything available to us, but we don't want to take responsibility for our lives and say,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm going to move forward because it will not spontaneously just come. Miracles
Yeah.
happen when you walk out on faith.
Yes. 100%. It's the
Yeah,
obedience. That's the whole part, is the obedience. Like, when you're
it
reading
is.
the Bible, like, and that's the part when you were just saying, like, you can be asking for all the things, but if you don't take that step, like, the
Yeah.
biggest thing that I always say to people that I learned with reading the Bible is that it's a big example of free will. And if you freely choose not to, like, you have to be okay with the consequences that come with that. And
That's
that's
the
in
consequences.
every area of your life. And ultimately, he's asking for obedience and to
That's right.
listen and for you
Surrender.
to, yeah, and it's surrender. And I mean, but that's a part that goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
to be able to listen. And I love that you shared that because it's talking about taking the steps. So, what I would love for you to share is, what are 2 to 3 practical steps women can take today to strengthen their resilience when life feels heavy?
Oh, so 3 things that you can do right now to strengthen your resilience when life feels heavy. Okay, so I talked about surrender all day. I had to get the tattoo on my arm because
Hmm.
I have to remind myself I'm human now. Having
Yes.
I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. That's number
Hmm.
1. And so just we talked about surrender, but being able to surrender is not easy.
Yeah.
And so I would say the first thing is getting quiet. Declutter all the noise in your life, whether it's things that you have in your house, the relationships that no longer serve you, that make you feel like they're sucking the wind out of you, right?
Hmm.
I'm not saying to get rid of everybody, but do you have to talk on the phone with someone who just tells you their problems all day? I have to get to something right now. Is it okay if I talk to you later? Like, I
Hmm.
don't have to engage, right? And we talked about all the things that you're doing in life. So the decluttering, you're on every board. You're at every soccer practice. You're
Yeah.
at, you're on the mission board,
Hmm.
the usher board at church. You're doing everything for everyone else.
Yeah.
Let's look at just the essentials. Let's act like we're starting our lives over, which we are over 40.
Yeah.
Look at the what you want in your life and what God is telling you when you get silent.
Yeah.
And the life that you dreamed of, even from a child that you always wanted, is everything that you're doing, taking inventory, is everything that you're doing in your life aligned? Is the clothes
Hmm.
that you're wearing, right? We got
Yeah.
all these extra things. And it's like, why? They're just
Yeah.
causing a burden. You have this
Yeah.
big house that you live in by yourself. You feel so lonely. You're
Yeah.
eating at restaurants by yourself, drinking yourself to death,
Yeah.
because you want to feel luxury. Luxury is peace, baby. I need to
A
tell you
thousand
this right
percent.
now. Luxury is not the cocktails and the beautiful expensive meals.
Yeah.
Luxury is being in alignment with your divine assignment and
Yeah.
being at peace. So that's number 1, decluttering, getting silent, okay? Number 2, you knew who you were in the past. You knew who you are because God is telling, or it's not God, but society has
Hmm.
said, Jessie is this person. But is Jessie that true person? Once you start to declutter, we need to remove the mask that we've been wearing in
Hmm.
order to fulfill this obligation that society has given to us. We're
Yeah.
wearing the mask. Everything looks perfect on social media, And so even for myself, I have to, and I encourage my clients to try to be as authentic as possible. When I
Yeah.
was in the military, I had to speak a certain way. So when you talk to me, it was, maybe Senator so and so, right? I was
Hmm.
always a politician. I was always on. But now you hear me talk, people are like, oh, she got a little, are you from New York? Where you from? You sound like you East Coast.
Yeah.
I can talk now and be authentic. I don't have to be this perfect person, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, you feel like you have to melt in with every different area and wear this mask. Oh, over here I'll be this person. Over here I'll be this person. No, no, no. Let's break that down to this one person now. And if
Yeah.
you are in a job or a career field where you feel like it's sucking the life out of you because you can't be your true self, then
Hmm.
just take inventory. I'm not telling you just Malaysia, I watched this episode and I'm just gonna run away in the woods. I'm not saying that. Okay.
But, I think taking the time to even realize if you're masking, like, I feel like some people have heard this terminology and some people haven't.
Yeah.
How would you best explain masking? Because I don't feel that everyone knows this term, just those of us that have
Yeah.
done the work understand
Yeah.
what masking is. How would you best describe it for someone that's never heard of that before?
So masking is basically when you are putting on and performing basically in an aspect of your, like, there's many different version of ourselves, but that when you're performing in a way that is not truly authentically aligned with your soul and your spirit.
Mm,
So you can be a leader, right? In society, you can be, but sometimes we're doing things, it's almost like you're serving a master that is not really you, right?
yeah.
And so when you start to pull back the layer, and maybe you don't even know who you are, maybe
Mhm,
it took because you decided to do this because your family member was this. And I hear so many people, well, my grandfather or my father was in the military, so I have to go in the military. You did
mm,
these things because you are honoring your heritage, you're
mm,
honoring your ancestors. And so, but it's like, it's not really what you wanted to do. You said,
mhm,
I really wanted to do this, right? So I
mhm,
remember when I was young, I really wanted to be a model.
mm,
I always wanted, and I got a scholarship to John Casablancas when I
mm,
was young. I was really young. I think I was maybe 10 or 11. Like, I was young. I don't even think I was a teenager, maybe 11ish when I was
okay.
going to John Casablancas. And, of course I had to be removed from my mom's home and I moved in with my grandmother. And guess what? Grandma from the South, okay, that they all my
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
be educated. They didn't
yeah,
play that. So they didn't allow me to go into the modeling world per se,
yeah,
organically, but
yeah,
I got to do, the hair shows and the
mhm,
modeling shows in the community.
yeah,
But, and now as a person who's coaching, who's influencing people or guiding people, I get to have my little photo shoots now,
yeah,
that's really fun. But
mhm,
masking is basically when you are not in your authentic self and
mhm,
you haven't decided to look inward and do that deep dive and pull back the layers to determine who Jessie is today. We knew
mhm.
who you were yesterday, but who is she today?
That was a great explanation because when I've used that word for some people, like I can tell like they don't understand what masking is. And
Yeah.
two, sometimes it really takes not only working with a professional, but also allowing yourself to recognize when you're doing so because more
Right.
people do it than they probably are really present to
Yeah,
because it's almost become their identity. Like, I feel that that's something that with being down south, I've realized more people mask of color,
we do.
especially educated,
Yes.
outwardly successful people,
Yes.
they mask a ton. Like, it's not
Hmm.
just code switching. It's like
Yeah, it's on another, it's you're embodying this entity that is not you.
mhm,
Right? And so, I mean, it's not just wearing a mask, like going to a Halloween party, but it's actually not in alignment with your spirit. And so
mhm,
when you go in these places where you do have to mask, maybe you're your true self when you're with family, but when you
mhm,
go in these places, so that's not just, you feel like your soul has been sucked out of you. You feel like
mhm,
you're not honoring God. And here's the thing, God gave you who you are for a purpose.
yeah,
So every time you wear that mask, you are not honoring God
mm,
because you're not allowing others to honor themselves, right?
mhm,
And so even now, I'm not saying like, you've made it and you become so spiritually, awakened that you're no longer having the human experience. The only way you do that is probably if you meditating all day on the mountain. And I'm not
I'm
there.
not doing
And
yeah,
so I even now when I go in certain environments, especially sometimes in the veteran community, because
mm,
again, you still feel like you have to be on. And
mhm,
so not all the time, but I make a true purpose to really try to really embody my authenticity. You don't
mhm,
have to like who I am. I don't have to look perfect for you. But guess what? also, when you walk in your authenticity, you'll see the spirits that are, kind of put off by it. You'll see it.
Yeah.
They'll be smiling in your face and and they're so uncomfortable. They start
Mm,
talking fast, they're moving around fast. They can't do it because they can't be their authentic selves. And when you start to do it, you'll see the people
mm.
around you and it's going to change. It may shift, but you're going to see the people who really align with that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the masking is based out of survival,
It is.
and it's that mental space of, like, "I'm surviving," and it's not, and anyone that's listening to it's not even a conscious decision. Most
Yeah.
of the time is how you perceive it through that lens of, like,
Yeah.
adjusting because
That's
of
right.
safety, which is all linked to survival, and so one of the things I thought was interesting about this is, and it ties perfectly into this next question, is that many women over 40 can feel like they're just trying to make it through. What does it
Mhm.
look like to move beyond survival into truly thriving in this season of life?
Oh, this one is so good. Many of us have been on fight or flight for a long time, and it's not just because of the generational trauma. When you go out in a world and it shows that young, because we're still our child selves are still here, right?
Mhm,
So we're adults, but our inner child is still here. Our inner child is still hurt. Our inner child is still unsafe. When you
mm,
go out in an environment where people maybe directly or indirectly show you that you're not worthy,
mm,
right? You're still now they're just now putting models who look like us on, different billboards or structures, but in reality, you see, and again, it may be on a subconscious level, right? We're trying to make our faces look and everybody's face is starting to look the same now, getting these
mhm,
injections and doing
mm.
all. Now, it's okay to do a little enhancement to yourself, but when it gets to the point where you start looking like a cat,
Yeah,
that is something that's intrinsically like, okay, because you were
mm,
so beautiful before all of that. What
yeah,
happened that you felt like you needed to keep doing something and you
yeah,
were never going to be perfect?
yeah,
In your eyes, because you are made in the image and likeness of God. So like you say, you are already made with perfection.
mhm,
You see different flowers and you see different things. So the first thing to get out of that fight or flight would be to work on the task that I talked about to get to surrender. When you get to surrender, okay, your vagus nerve, you're going to feel settled. You're going to start to see the world for what it is. When I told you that I saw Eckhart Tolle, I went to the DAR Constitution Hall in DC. Now, for anybody who's been to that, we've been a million things are there. Plays are there,
right, you just made me
concerts are there,
sad.
comedy shows. We've been there a million times. And it wasn't
Yes,
until I actually went and saw Eckhart Tolle that I saw how beautiful that structure is. I looked
mm,
around and I saw all these innate things. And so
mhm,
again, the answer and you're looking to God for the answers. The answers that you're gonna get are not the answers that you're going to want to
mm,
hear. So I'm going to be
never.
honest with that. You decided to get in that relationship that you had a couple of children, and you feel
Mm,
stuck,
mm,
and I'm not going to get into all the synchronicities of that,
yeah,
but the decisions you made were because of the fight or flight mode.
yeah,
If you were in your mode of
mhm,
surrender, right,
mhm,
and presence and mindfulness and being who you authentically were, there's some decisions that we might not have made at
mhm,
that time. And
mm,
so really owning, it's no shame. It's no, oh, things are wrong. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying you need to change everything that you actually did, but you
mhm,
can change yourself and
mhm,
you can change how you perceive the world and you can change how people treat you. When
yeah,
you start to change yourself and the people who don't get in line, things will happen
yeah,
and your world will shift. You're not gonna have to, oh, let me send an email to everybody and tell them, nope, I'm no, I'm this person now. I'm
yeah,
surrendered. You can't talk to me anymore. When you start to just embody that,
mm,
people who need to be around you are. The people who don't, they're not gonna feel comfortable around you anymore. And you
yeah,
might feel a sense of loss. Again, After 40, you're going to feel a sense of loss with who you were. Your body's not going to operate the same way, but you
Mm,
can do things differently. I
mm,
see, Miss Ernestine,
mhm.
what is she, close to 90 now, still
Yeah,
bodybuilding?
yeah,
Okay. So maybe you're going to pick up something new that will be your new superpower that you
yeah,
didn't know that you had before. Maybe you had an inkling about it, but
mm,
once you step into that, that is going to be what's going to so, yeah, you might be in relationships and situations and jobs that make you feel like you're on fight or flight all the time,
mhm.
but it's your responsibility. It's not
Okay,
theirs. Oh, you should treat me this way. You shouldn't call me at 10 at night from my supervisor. I
mm,
had that more recently. I'm teaching for the
yeah,
University of Maryland. I'm an adjunct professor.
yeah,
And, you get the new people coming out, and they're
mm,
like, my butt. And I'm like, this is when you started. This is why I'm doing this now. This is why I'm
yeah,
teaching mindfulness. This is why I'm teaching self care. It's
yeah,
because it starts today. So
yeah,
don't think about, I should have done this and have this level of guilt. Guess what? You can make that shift right now with
yeah.
one step and just ask God, what do you have for me? But again, be ready for the answers once they
Mm.
come.
Yeah, and when you shared about the DAR, it's the Daughters of American Revolution for people
Yeah.
that don't know that. And it just like immediately I was like, it made me feel sad. Like I don't like
Yeah.
I what people think of DC and what it actually is are two different things. And it's just like I'm so grateful that
Yeah.
we had those experiences and a lot of the
Yeah.
experiences we've had, not just from the things that are there, it's how we've had to grow and being able to go through the resiliency of it all, and then also with you sharing about, like, the process. Like, I think that
Yeah.
sometimes we think that the obedience is easy, and it is not. Like, I tell people, like, I am a DC girl to the core, and
Yeah.
one way to get that out is for me to feel disrespected, slighted, or anything of that nature, but through
I've never seen anything like that from you.
but here's the thing, it's because God is working through me. Like,
Yeah.
like, my window has expanded so much
Yeah.
by being obedient. And often when I
Yes.
feel that shifting in me, like even some things that have been happening recently, when I feel that shifting, I have to pray, like, God, please just like, I'm giving this to you because I
Yeah.
know that my innate activity is like inner city girl. And it's like, not that it's like a side of violence, it's really just that protective mechanism that comes up. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna test me or it's something that's just like I guess the best way to say is a defensiveness that
Yeah.
comes up. And one of the
Yeah.
things that I had to really get present to is like, that is not the reflection of God that I wanna show in this world.
That's right.
So often when I feel that shift happening, like God just like help with releasing that and letting me let it go so that
Yeah.
I am almost, it's not even detached, but it is the best way I can describe it is a detached feeling. Because when I allow for him to just be in control, I don't have to have all those feelings. I don't have to feel defensive. I don't have to feel anything other than knowing that at the end of the day, he has me covered and that
Mhm.
I trust him. And when
Yeah.
you're being obedient, yeah, my flesh might be like, "Ooh, I'm going to go on Facebook and no, what does that do? Like, it's been so many times when I want to say something and Holy Spirit be like, girl, like all day long, some days, like when my flesh wants to do something, or say
Mhm.
something or express something, Holy
Mhm.
Spirit always is like correction. And I think that that's the part about being a believer is being okay being corrected. And being corrected doesn't mean like it is conviction, but it's not condemnation. Like I
Yeah.
want to be corrected. I want to grow. I want to get better. And it's not because it gets his love. It's because
Mhm.
of whom he's called me to be with
Yeah.
walking in this world. And so,
Yeah.
like, I rather die to my flesh and my innate feeling to react certain ways so that I'm in alignment with who he's called me to be and
Yeah.
learning how to be humble
Yeah.
to allow for him. because that's where the free will part comes in. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
need my help. He doesn't, all he needs is my obedience to trust him.
Yeah. What you said is so important, and it's a great reflection. But I would also give you a reframe for that
Mm,
thought. And
okay.
here's why. There are times when we are going to get defensive. However, I would ask you, is there times when you don't feel defensive? So, really, there's a level of discernment once you start to get in alignment with your
Mm,
divine assignment and you're honing in on that relationship with God, your level of discernment actually goes up. And that's the
mm,
big shift too that happens once
yeah.
you get into your spirituality.
Yeah.
And so guess what, Jesse? When we're around certain people and certain things, we tend to feel that way.
Hmm.
But when we're in other instances, we don't feel that way. So guess
Mm,
what? That level of discernment is protection. We need that. We need ego. We
true.
say, get rid of the ego. We need that.
Hmm.
So guess what? I'm going to make sure that I'm not putting myself in situations that
Yeah.
cause me to want to react that way.
100%.
So if it's a job, it's a relationship, it's a partnership, I'm gonna see what I'm gonna see what it is. I'm from the
Yeah.
north, okay. I'm from the
Yeah.
northeast. I'm from Massachusetts, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see what it is, and if I feel like I do need to be in that space, I'm
Yeah.
not going. That's not what I'm going to do for myself. I'm not
Yeah.
honoring God when I'm putting myself in those. So I'm not. I'll tell you what. I'm not trying to be funny about these different social media platforms, but I'm hardly ever on Facebook. My
Mm,
assistant has everything going and they do all of it. I may
mm,
get on there and respond a couple things, but after I had my near death experience and everything was going on in
mm,
society,
mhm,
I'm like Instagram and LinkedIn. And even
mm.
LinkedIn sometimes feel a little funny for me. But
Yeah.
I know the space. So just thinking about, okay, what are the spaces that I feel safe in?
Yes.
And what are the spaces I feel like I need to get DC Jesse out? Okay.
And that's so valid because the thing about with Facebook, the only reason why I'm even on Facebook, and I've
Yeah.
actually thought about it definitely this year, because even if I report things or whatever, I'm like, this is obviously not because of my interaction. This is definitely an agenda that's being pushed. And it's been recently, I'm like, I have to figure out a way to still intentionally. So when I said I was doing the work in the book, for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, I need to start building my relationships with my family members outside of Facebook
Right.
because I don't like the platform. Like, I've even gotten to the point I put a post up. I'm like, I am I've learned, do not ever click on post and do not ever click in comments, because it's all like, I learned, like, it's nothing good in those comments, and I don't want to open myself up to any of that where it shifts me, because
Yeah.
I know. So I'm like, as a way to put a barrier, because all I'm doing is staying connected with my grandma, like, all of my family is all on there because
Yep.
they're all over all over the world, really. But I'm
Right.
just like, I have to find that connection, but I'm very present that Facebook is a trigger for me. So the only way that I can actively be on Facebook is, one, I'm not clicking on anybody's comments, and I'm not staying on there. I have on my cell phone, I have a time block on how much I can even be on the app on my cell phone on a daily basis, because I'm like, I don't want, for one, to get consumed by something that I'm not even controlling at this point, to take in narratives that I don't even agree with, even if I report it, even if. And so, like, it's so true that you said that, because I don't think that people take ownership in where they're putting themselves, the spaces that they're occupying that are not aligned. And then the thing about it is, like how I said, like, I know that it's not. I'm actively looking for a solution. I think that that's the part, is like, you can acknowledge it, but then what are you going to do to correct it? And so that you don't feel powerless. Like, there's a lot of things we have power over, but we don't have to walk through life, especially, I think that's something I've embraced since being 40. Like, if I don't, I am very present to where I put my time, energy, anger, any of that, anything that pertains to myself or my being. I don't subscribe to certain things, and I don't even want to give my energy to things like, and I think that's something that's super important when it comes to a mental health perspective, because some people all day long all they're doing is consuming. Consuming, consuming, consuming. Your first step, even with listening to this, it might be how much are you consuming? So you can
Yeah,
be quiet.
your brain is rewired, and again, the way you experience the world is so different.
Mhm,
So it'll be more triggering potentially for people over 40. Many
mhm,
of my clients, what we've decided for some of them is to get a social media manager. So they
mm,
don't see all of that. So really, when you look at your values, that was the third thing that when you asked me about things to
yeah,
do. So for your job, for your everything else, for your business, you have mission values, you have a mission, you have all your core values of everything.
mhm,
So after 40, you need to now refine what your values and mission is once
mm,
you get clarity. When you do that, you're going to see the things, you're not going to do anything that doesn't align with that. So for me, I'm only on Facebook because I need it for the business. I know
yeah,
it's a business thing. I don't need to keep in touch with family. I'm putting out business stuff. What they gonna be like? Oh, she's speaking again. I'm not putting anything. I might put some in my stories about me going on a trip or something like that.
yeah,
But for the most part, it is a business venture. So
mm,
are you gonna be at your job 24/7? Are you gonna be in your office 24/7? No.
yeah,
So if you can go on Fiverr, go on Upwork, or better yet, this is even better for you because if you don't want to spend all that money, go ahead, go on Etsy, purchase your templates and
mm,
automate them. And you
mhm,
can even have, so you notice when you go with mini chat, when you go on some
yeah,
people's, when you comment, it
yeah,
says, okay, link sent for every single, they're not
uh-huh,
even on there. You notice some people never
yeah,
even comment and they
yeah,
got hundreds of followers, thousands and thousands and thousands of followers because they're using it what it is for, intended for. It is
mm,
not for us to live like, remember the Real World back in the day? That
yes,
was the first reality show.
yeah,
That's what TikTok, that's what all these things have become, a
yes,
reality show. Guess
mhm,
what? I can't make money watching TV all day.
facts,
Okay. And if I don't have the money that I need, I can't do the mission that God has asked me to do. So when you
yeah,
are aligned fully in your calling, the game change. I don't have to report anybody. So I do have a private now. It's not my old private account. That's why I said under a different name now. But
mhm,
I started, like, you know, letting people in, but I'm like, I'm not even using it because all the posts go to my outward public page. And
mhm,
so I'll get people that have requested me. And as soon as I accept them, they're pitching me or men are saying good
mhm,
morning. I
mhm,
immediately block them.
immediately block,
Immediately. Immediately. You don't even know me to pitch me. And they
yeah,
do that on LinkedIn too. I don't necessarily
yes,
block them on LinkedIn. I just delete, the
yeah,
thing.
the request,
But
yeah,
if it's somebody that I know that's trying to, be funny or whatever, I just immediately, and people will be like, well, you didn't answer my block. I'm not obligated to you. And guess what? When you turn over 40, people should not even have that much access to you. We've
I
been
agree,
answering the phone 24/7. I'm trying to do this. People texting, oh, I got to text. I got to, eat. I can't even eat. I can't.
yeah,
What? I
yeah,
need my energy because if I don't
100%,
have my energy, I can't do what God has called me to do. So
yeah,
block all that stuff, delete all that stuff, get
yeah,
everything put up automatically. And if it is an account where it's people that knew you from the past and maybe from high school, junior high, and they're kind of funny, again,
mm,
just shut that account down and start a completely new account and have an account that's just for you to do your business.
yeah, I love that. Some really great tips. So as we wrap up, I would love for you to share what's one word of encouragement you'd love to leave women with listening to today's podcast that may be struggling with faith, resilience, or mental health right now.
Instead of one word, I'm going because we've said all the
Mhm,
buzzwords today: resiliency, alignment, surrender. I'm going to say a quote, and it's one of
mhm,
my favorite quotes. And it says, the world belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. All those dreams that you had that were masked, that put all down because you've been on fight or flight all these years, look and see what those dreams are and go forth. And it's by Eleanor Roosevelt. And that's one of the most beautiful. I have a lot of different quotes, but that's the beautiful one. look at those words and just see what they mean to you.
Mm.
And when you decide to do a deep dive on your life,
I love that. Eleanor has some really great quotes.
she does.
Oh my
She does.
goodness. Oh my goodness. So many great ones. I just want to say thank you so very much for being a guest today. And it's been really exciting to just hear your perspective and the tips that you've been able to provide. I would love for you to share, how can people connect with you and find out more about what your services are?
Yes, so you can go to malaysiaharrell.com. If you Google me, you'll see me everywhere. I just love to engage. And of course, I speak all over the world. I'll be speaking in London in November. Catch me at a speaking engagement and follow me, and maybe you'll show up. Please say hello.
I love that. And congratulations on all that's happening in your life and the
Thank
impact
you.
that you're able to make. So,
Thank you.
ladies, if this conversation spoke to you, don't forget to comment below and also follow Malaysia on her social platforms. I would love for you to continue this conversation with letting us know what's one takeaway that you have received in this specific episode, because ultimately we're wanting to have a conversation that's designed to help you with thriving within your purpose and having the confidence that you desire after 40. And I will make sure to have all of the notes inside of the description and show notes so that you're able to stay connected as well as join our email list. And that's where our real community is happening. And I would love to hear about what's going on in your specific journey. So until next time, remember, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. All right.